is you step aside, and that has been repeated so much. In fact, it's not a punishment. It's a relief that you can be on your own and send your agenda without any attachment. And that calls also on this arrangement of deputy presidency and the presidency. I said earlier that the D will never be equal to P because the president is the head of state and commander-in-chief. But here, the person who commands all armed forces is being insubordinated in a way we have never seen it before. That is shameful for the country. So those articles should be looked into. Deputy presidency is a delegated authority. And I like the early arrangement, even if people do not agree with me. If you cannot work with me and I'm the president, I'm firing you and that's it. More used to do 1 o'clock, you're gone. And it happened to several vice presidents. That creates loyalty so that you can work together. You cannot work with somebody who is claiming to be a co-president. There's no co-presidency in Kenya. And that's the problem we have here in the Constitution. And if you have somebody of such Ruto character, then you are not going to do anything because it's a distraction from all the agendas they set together because of the personality of the person. And that personality is now backed by the Constitution that he cannot be fired from the office. That is a problem to Kenya. So that article needs to be revisited, according to me, Rogers.
Okay, it'll be a tall task. But let's see what transpires even as the CS for Interior appears before Parliament. Let's shift focus right now in terms of projects come 2022, where ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi has ruled out any possibility of working with Deputy President William Ruto ahead of the 2022 general election. Mudavadi, while responding to calls by Ruto's allies to join the Hustler Nation, said he was better placed to steer the wheels of the nation. Mudavadi, who was speaking in Nandi, also denied claims he was President Uhuru Kenyatta's preferred candidate.
Lakini pia nyinyi watu wa Vihiga na watu ya Western. Hii kiti ya Mwami Musalia anatafuta ni kiti ya Kenya. Na kiti ya Kenya ni mzuri kupiga kelele hapa na kushangilia ni mzuri. Lakini pia kupata kiti ya urais inataka strategy. Lazima upange hesabu mzuri. Ukienda tu kienyeji namna hii itakuwa ngumu. Itaharibika. Ndugu yangu Mwami Musalia, sasa wewe tunataka hiyo safari unakuaga State House pale Mombasa, unakuja hapa. Unapiga story huko ndani, hatujui umesema nini, unapiga picha hapa hivi. Mnafanya mnarudi, mnatoka Nairobi, unaenda Mombasa. Unatoka Mombasa, unarudi Nairobi. Kwanza nikwambie ndugu yangu, mwenye nyumba hiyo ya State House, ukiona maneno yake, ameamua kwamba anatakia ODM kiti ya urais. Na lakini anataka kuzungusha nyinyi muendelee kukaa na yeye tu badala ya kutafuta kura kwa raia. Mnatoka State House Nairobi, mnaenda State House Mombasa, mnarudi Nairobi, mnaenda Mombasa. Wakati hiyo Ruto anazunguka Kenya hii akitafuta kura. Ile wakati wewe unalia kiti imepeanwa kwa yule muungwana, wewe hauna time ya kurudi kwa raia.
Nataka niombe wa Kenya msichague watu wenye hasira bana. Na ukweli usemwe. Mkiangalia runinga kesho, ukiangalia sura ya Ruto, hasira. Ukiangalia sura ya Raila, hasira. I'm asking you Kenyans, when you look at me, do you see anger? Do you see bitterness?
Well, politics, as simple as that. So, Sakwa, are you being played, perhaps? Because according to Governor Sang right there, you'd go for photo ops in Mombasa, back to State House Nairobi, back to State House Mombasa. Yet it seems evident that the president might be pushing the One Kenya alliance towards Raila Odinga, who, according to close sources, is his preferred successor. But what say you about this?
Well, on this one, I'll have to borrow my colleague Martin's approach to it.
Yeah.
The president is the head of state, so he has certain convening power that in a collegial type of governance, even opposition leaders can interact with the head of state without raising an eyebrows. After all, What's the best example? The best example was when, after a very bitter election process we had in 2017, we woke up one night to find that our leader in the opposition is now a pro-government in chief. So it's not something new anymore. But I think that the weakness in all of this is having projects in politics. Now, the biggest project, the president's biggest project, is fronting the former prime minister to become president of Kenya next year. And as you can see, the concern even by DP Ruto's camp is that is there something that may be cooking where the president has put his hand? He is a head of state, he can influence things as well while he's still in office. That may provide an advantage or a due advantage to people who are in the opposite camp, to their own camp. That's why you hear people like Governor Sang making those saucy remarks that they're making. But the bottom line is, I think that photo ops have played their role. I do not see going forward that photo ops have much role to play in all of this. I think sometimes the president has done this, I think, in my own very personal view, to give a certain optics that is not real, that is assumed to be where he might be headed. Without saying anything, you're supposed to draw your own conclusions. And you remember in Mombasa, in one of the Mombasa, if you call it 1 and 2, Mombasa 1, I think it was, there was even a statement that came out and essentially said that they had agreed to work together in one alliance with the former prime minister and so on, which was later denied. And State House did not contradict the denial either. They didn't say anything formally first, and they didn't say anything formally after the denial. I think it's my own personal view is that whereas all presidents may have an interest in how successions are done, successions that will follow them, I think it has to be done in a subtle way with a certain amount of subtlety. But I think this open involvement can drag you down the wrong path as well. And I think that he has done his bit 10 years. Let anybody else who comes in legally be the president in 2022. And if you allow me something I don't normally do, but let me do it now, me as an NC person feels that my party leader, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, has got the temperament and decorum and leadership character that Kenya needs next year. It has to be one that unites, it has to be one that agrees to the rule of law, it has to be one that focuses on the economy. So if I was to say who would be the best candidate for this, I would say Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, of course. But I know that my colleague Martins will have, I can guarantee you as much as day and light, that he will have his own opinion on it. And so do other Kenyans, which therefore means that the process needs to be allowed to play out itself within the law. That's all we should worry about. And then the people themselves in 2022 will put their vote where they think that the leader best meets their aspirations.
Okay, well noted. And as you had your voice, Martins, this issue of succession, because we've had Raila's allies mentioned, now we have the deep state with us, you know. So is it a poison chalice from your side? Because just yesterday we saw headlines of a pending cabinet reshuffle, and one would assume that perhaps ODM diehards or opposition stalwarts would be making their way into cabinet as well during this last final term of Uhuru's administration. So what say you about this?
Right. I mean, if you have been a part of something, it really comes back onto you. All these people were talking about deep state. They were beneficiaries of that deep state. And in fact, in Parliament, we cried of computer-generated leaders, even into the committees, which were dismally functioning. President Uhuru does not front Raila, and he said it very well. That he had nothing to do with BBI's Raila candidacy. Raila is a man on his own, and that so on. So that one is outplaced. Now, Rogers, if there are chaos and the president is doing nothing, they will come and say, presidency is a unifying figure, why is it not doing that? And now when he's doing that, it's photo ops. Those are politics. But the fact is, President Uhuru is trying his best to bring this country together. And that was anchored on the handshake, so that we don't get into that chaos. Others may look at it in a different way, but that is what he's doing. Now, coming to my friend's friend, Munyasi, in fact, Mudavadi had the opportunity, because Sang set him very well. In politics, what happens on the podium is what carries the day. That narrative of Sang would have given him the opportunity to say what, even to be more audacious with jokes and humor and all that, but he went on now to character. You cannot be talking about uchumi today, and tomorrow you are talking of anger. No, it doesn't sell that. People will be mixed up. And that will also call you, who is humble, who is temperate like my friend, do you have spine? Do you have backbone when things go wrong? Does that kind of, help? And we have seen it in the past. It's something we would like him to improve and stay on the path of uchumi. Don't get into talking about other people's character. Character does not fare well in it, because when you talk about them, you anger their supporters who you want to woo, and you lose out.
All right.
But I respect my friend, and I wish them well.
It's called friendly fire. But still, since we're talking about character, I want to put him to task perhaps to defend his man, because Raila Odinga did receive backlash from northeastern counties due to that one man, 1 shilling debate. Yeah? And it's all to do with the revenue sharing formula based on population. He was in Kiambu and mentioned, with so much population right here, it's not fair perhaps for Mandera to get the same amount of money and they have less population. It's not fair to Kiambu County, So what exactly was he trying to say in terms of the 1 man, 1 shilling debate? Because he's received support from these marginalized counties time and time again, and perhaps that's why there was backlash from this particular statement, Martins.
Backlash, when you have a spine, you will say what you think. It doesn't matter whether you have a backlash or not. And I know my party leader has stood firm, even in the Mao preservation of Mao Forest. He had a backlash, and he lost so many votes, but he stands. Talking about 1 man, 1 shilling, even me, I would make the loudest noise, because they were constituency. It's 3 constituencies in 1. But I still get the same CDF like anybody else. To me, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't work. That's why it is good also to work on the geographical area, but also have some eye on how many populations are there. Okay. So to sum it up, my party leader does not really, so long as he knows what he's saying and he's anchored on that, he will go for it. I will sell it, and even if he get a backlash, he stand. And that is what we call principle and spining up for what you believe in.
Okay, since we're speaking about principle, the front page of the Daily Nation, Sakwa, is talking about the pressure that is piling on these 2 individuals that control the executive, President Uhuru Kenyatta and Deputy President William Ruto, to perhaps put their differences apart and reconciliate in terms of the issues they've been facing in the last 5 years of their administration. Do you think this is feasible, even as the mediators argue that these political differences might push the country into animosity ahead of the polls?
I think it is possible. First, remember that in the basic management sciences, when you are a manager, part of what you have to do is to resolve issues around you and conflict around you. And if you are manager number 1, you must be the one that models the best behavior on how to handle conflict. Conflict occurs at all levels, between us, our parents and our children, between us as spouses, and it does happen at all levels and so on. So I think it's going to be incumbent upon the president to have a certain amount of accommodation. I don't think that they will want to wear matching ties anymore and that kind of thing that was, sort of a little peer. But I think they will reach a point in which there is some communication, because I think they are not quite joined at the hip, but there is a fair amount of commonality they can't quite run away from. It's also, I don't think it's a great show for them now to display the arrogance of their difference, either by the DP saying virtually he doesn't care, or by the president referring to his DP like, that man and so on. These are state functions. In fact, nobody cares about their private lives, that, one is so-and-so's, Mr. So-and-so, so-and-so's son, and the other is so-and-so. No, those are things the state is not interested in. It is their ability to work together and deliver for the people that they hold office. It is for that the president holds office. It's also accompanied upon him to use various ways. There are many ways he can use, at least to tame and to narrow, to slow down their rift, because the rift is affecting perception. And we are going into an election when one side is now would be considered. I saw in some a reporter sent me a message to comment, which I didn't, saying that so-and-so is clearly the non-political enemy of the republic. Yeah. And so I said, these are different. I didn't want to explain that to him, but I said to myself, yes, extreme differences between the two people at the top. Part of the weakness of that leadership is their inability to resolve their differences. That's not a good model at all. Okay,
well noted. Martins, add your voice to this, because politicians as well seem to be setting the ground for a truce, but they've put out conditions, and some of these central Kenya MPs allied to the DP actually want the president to sort of stop forcing an Odinga presidency on the Mount Kenya region. They term it as political suicide.
First of all, Raila Odinga Rao is going to Mount Kenya himself, so Uhuru has nothing to do with that. What he said earlier, and he still maintains, that he will need a vote from Uhuru. That one is there. Now, as for this reconciliation, Rogers, you can never put pressure for people to reconcile. Remember, the prodigal son, he had to go because they had talked with the father and they could not contain. These religious people who are now joining the phrase of putting pressure are the same people who are providing platform propaganda for the DP. Every time it's on the synagogue. Religious people have lost the moral authority to come up when they're needed. They better rethink themselves. As for politicians, they are doing that for their own political game. But the fact is, this thing has gone beyond repair. Let them separate, and we are calling upon the DP, get out from the state establishment, establish yourself in the community which you say you have, and fight your fight from the community. There is nothing like reconciliation under pressure. It won't work. It needs humility, it needs respect of the office of the presidency, and it means you have to also state facts as they are. There's no propaganda. And I said this is the worst insubordination we have ever seen in this land. So to me, it's a waste of time. It will not work. It's politics. Nobody is harming anybody, and I thank the president for that. If it was other regimes, people would be disappearing like left and right. But now they talk as they want. Let that play until we get to election. But repairs are not here. It's fully damaged. So it's a waste of time.
Oh my, okay.
Rogers, if something is damaged, let's say if a pot is broken, you better buy a new one.
It can be let us use repair.
How would you repair?
Your party leader is pushing Azimio la Umoja, united.
But difference is also in Umoja. We can be different, but still
March
we can talk. That's not it's not violent. That's what I'm saying.
Sako?
Let's go back to March 2018. The differences had been so big and so grave, and the disagreements so major. And yet, while people were dying on the street, negotiations were going on. While the coronation was happening end of January, negotiations were going on because it started in November, as I was declared. And the statesmanship of Honorable Raila rose significantly for agreeing to come back in the fold and work with Uhuru. So reconciliation is a good thing. That's how the handshake has come. We want the handshake to continue, obviously, but we do also want the DP to work with the president so they can conclude their tenure. They're working on behalf of the state, not because of who they are. Actually, I personally don't think anybody really cares who they are. They are only important because they have a role defined by our constitution. So they have to try and come back. They should listen to the voice of the clergy which has been at the center for a long time in our recent history, recent as from the mid-70s or thereabouts, that's what I mean by recent, that they don't have the crystal ball to see and to determine the way God would do. No, but they can advise because that's the nature of their work. I think my colleague here will also agree that for as long as it does not derail the handshake, he would agree to reconciliation. The fear is that reconciliation, people fear, might derail the handshake. It shouldn't. Handshake has brought dividends, peace dividends. It has two sides to it, but it has brought peace dividend, and that we should allow that to flourish. But at the same time, let us take out these ugly scenarios that are beginning to occur. That's my view.
Okay. Can I add something small?
Yeah, sure.
You know, chronologically, let's look how this panned out. When the president was so serious with the agenda, he appealed to his deputy, please stop politics. Let us focus on this. He never listened. He drifted again and again and again. And now, when you saw it in that clip, there's no Jubilee colors. It's another party, Ashland Nation. So this is the condition we are giving the DP. Remove all those clothes, regroup all your people, find out how to get back to the mainstream. If you find that possible, then we are talking about humility. Now reconciliation can take place. Now, as far as the religious leaders, please be true to the principle of the Bible, not to be silent when others are hurting and coming out when you think like. That is not religion. That is not leadership in the God's family we all ascribe to. Because we have seen when we have problem, they were silent. Okay. And now, it is easy to say this than when it was there. That's not very right. So anyway, we wish them well.
Yeah. Let's see how it transpires. But you know what, Waswahili wanasema ndovu wakipigana nyasi umia. You know, so perhaps it's in the best interest of the country that this to unite and set a common agenda. Let's see how it transpires. But speaking of what's transpiring in Parliament, Martins, today the IEBC might be fully constituted if Parliament gives the thumbs up. Perhaps add your voice to this, because I can see ODM officials are telling Wafula Chebukati to give parties more time to conduct primaries. So what's the key issue here? What is ODM pushing for?
Right. I mean, all these are not casted in stone. What really disrupts parties are botched nominations. If not done properly, it will come up even to the general election. So when the parties are requesting time, we have also had a rough time because of this COVID and all that. People are going through a difficult time. The IEBC should accept that and give us those times so that we organize. I don't think it's only ODM. It's just speaking for other parties. We will need that time. As for the IEBC nominees coming to the House, I think we will have to really debate Bunyasi, because these people, if not really vetted properly by National Assembly, then we will have a revolving door. Others resigned because of another one's coming in. Some may also resign. But we are happy that now, if that comes and is said and done, we'll have a fully constituted IEBC to do business. But it's going to be rigorous, that vetting process, because we want to know the character. It doesn't matter whether you are a PhD person, but what do you stand for? Some of us have also looked into the 360 kind of degree of evaluation. What do the peers, the people you have worked with, what do they say? Okay. Can you face this team? So I'm happy. Let them come. We will debate and have a finality to it on the floor.
Are you still going after Wafula Chebukati?
That was misconceived. Because, and some people went tribal on it, it's not about that. It's about the person and the institution. And we told him, wake up. Because you remember the procurement saga, we lost lots of billions under his leadership. Okay. So what ODM was telling him, not again. And the presidency election was annulled when you were on that chair. So if you are given a chair, sit properly. Sit and have some backbone, to serve Kenyans. We were not going to remove him. No. But, you know, we have to reprimand people in order to wake up and work well, and we still stick with that.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
It was a wake-up call, simply.
Exactly.
So, Sako, add your voice to the IEBC issue. You'll be vetting those, is it 4 nominees to the IEBC body. What's your take on it?
I think first and foremost, yes, Parliament indeed has a very important role to play, and I want to say more than ever before, they must do as my colleague Martin says, they must vet rigorously. And there I would like to draw in the institutions that help the vetting process. These institutions include EACC, include DCI, including NIS, include any of these. NIS does not normally report to us, but they have critical information. They would know something about these people. Usually you don't get that information. We have had cases of people say the PS position and other senior positions coming before Parliament. Before ESS has produced anything, they say we have nothing on this person or something like that. And lo and behold, even the person on the street knows that so-and-so was involved in some serious matter of one kind or another. They withhold information. In democracy where this works, people get to know almost about everything. If you have beaten your wife, you are not suitable for public office because maybe you have a temper you can't control. If you beat up your children, maybe you're not a reconciliator or leader. There are those kinds of things that we don't have that information. What we have are CVs, and I think in Kenya of today, CVs are the least useful things because we really have hundreds of thousands of people now with degrees and some, real degrees, not fake ones even. So that's not an issue. Okay. The issue is around the value systems, the issue is about the character of the person, and so on. If we don't get it right, these guys will go in, at the first showing of wads of money that seem to occur, they will be, as the president said in a relay, while running forward, they will be running back to go and pick the last bit that they have left behind. Then we will not get it right. So I just do hope, and I would like to agree with my colleague, that the vetting must be rigorous, it must be bipartisan, it must be detribalized, and so on. Now, and on that, I must just add one sentence or two, only very quickly, half a minute, no less than that. Everybody born in Kenya has a tribe. Depends on how you call it. You cannot define by what you see in somebody. You know his name, you know his tribe, therefore, what comes out is tribal. Therefore, what that person organizes or leads is tribal. I think that's naive and it's shallow. And it's so because I don't think that we are training our people and ourselves in many ways to get the right vocabulary. There are issues in this country that unite many parts of the country. The poverty level that we've got, the marginalization and the reason and so on. I think we can discuss in terms of the issues that face us, even though those mouths may come from particular tribal backgrounds and languages and so on. But the issues is what we should really be focusing on. So, yes, I don't think that ODM's criticism of Chebukati is tribal. No, it won't be tribal. The man is he has played a very critical role in this republic. He's going to supervise 3 elections. Not many of his predecessors have had a chance to do that, the 2017, the 2017, and the 2022. So I think he deserves to face the wrath of citizens that are angry and so on, but it's not because of, I don't believe it's because of tribe.
All right, well noted.
I agree with Martin on that too.
Okay, it's a rare occurrence anyway. Let's talk about something, since we're talking about issues right now, and this centers on the enforced disappearances, and the coastal region is reeling from the effects of this issue. Out of 26 people who have either been killed or mysteriously disappeared at the hands of security agencies this year, 21 have come from the coast region, according to human rights organizations. So it's still an issue, and I believe, Martins, even as the Interior CS, Fred Matiang'i, is appearing to explain issues to do with the DP security, perhaps shedding light on the security of these particular individuals under security agencies would be of the best interest to the country. Well, what's your take on this? Because we've seen these headlines time and time again.
Yeah, and Rogers, I hope we will dispel quickly the issue of DP and get into the insecurity in the country. There are so many underlying factors that bruise violence and murders, and that needs a holistic approach to the whole thing. This Mombasa issue of sometimes just youth marauding the entire street, maiming everybody on their way, and just get out of it. Now they have got to selective abductions and killings, and these are children of people, these are daughters, wives, and all this. It is chaotic in the house, which is also going through a hard time right now. So our security system should be reviewed and parameters properly anchored on issues that make this happen, so that we go to the root cause of violence. It's not only in cost. Even in my own constituency, may not be security-wise initiated, but the violence in the household, the violence in the community and all that is happening a lot. But the investigations are very slow. At the end of the day, even the person who was involved in murder comes out bragging. I didn't go anywhere. And it follows the narrative of which we have had for centuries now. That no stone will be left unturned. So many stones now, they don't even know, count them, those which are not being unturned. So to me, the country is not only facing the violent insecurity, but also the social fabrics of this country is really damaged. That needs a holistic approach. And I think the Ministry of Mr. Matiang'i with his ministry is responsible to initiate what will help Kenyans in this arena, and until we get out of this hole where we are in now. It's very pathetic, and I think it needs a lot of action. So take little time there and get out, help more Kenyans who are suffering.
Okay, well noted. We'll get your reply after.